today's episode of Huber Syndrome, Brandon Jones has started the journey. Welcome to the show. We are here with Brandon Jones, and you did it.
I imagine I'm at like an because you love theaters, right?
Yeah.
So I'm at a huge opera house, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard about this opera house, and I've specifically heard about this opera. And it's the end of Act 1. There will be 2 intermissions. And so I'm like, cool. So I'm out in the lobby.
Yes.
You know, getting like a rum and Coke and just like looking at the program. Like, that was really cool. Oh, yeah. Like, that actor's really good. That performance is great.
Yeah.
Can't wait for Act 2. I hear Act 2 is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Ending's controversial, but I hear Act 2 is really worth the price of admission.
Yes, Brandon Jones has finished Mass Effect 1, and that is what...
off inexplicably.
Yeah.
Love RPGs, love sci-fi.
It happens, you know, especially working in the industry. Our job is to play every single game ever, but, you know, sometimes
Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2, never played it. You know, it's like
you're looking over here, you know, and things are just flying by. Things happen. But
played Dragon Age 1 and 2 several times.
Yeah.
More than once, both campaigns. So funny that like
that is funny.
Yeah. Did play Inquisition, but just for some reason. Loved it. Overall,
do you love science fiction or fantasy more, Brandon?
Fantasy.
Fantasy, okay.
Yeah. At the end of the day.
Even though Aliens is probably your favorite movie ever.
Well, I think that's it. I think I like sci-fi movies and TV shows, but when I play something, like I want to get out in the woods. I want to get out, like I want to build up. That's why I love Valheim. It's just like I want cobblestone and spells and stuff. Like all that stuff is really cool. But this to me did the best. I mean, this rang so many bells, you know, from Star Trek to Event Horizon to, you know.
Yeah.
And it was, and just shout out again to, I streamed this on, if you go to youtube.com/EasyAlliesPlays, or you check our archives on Twitch, you can see me play this. I think it took me like, how many episodes? Like 16 episodes?
Damn.
But I chat like, you know, was amazing through the whole thing. They were just like, you know, don't go that way, or you forgot a chest, or.
Did they impact any of your choices?
No.
Good.
And that's what's really funny. Like there were only a couple times where I really got like rocked. Because I think that's one of the biggest things why the game shows its age. And again, I'm playing Mass Effect 2 and 3, so this might just be like par for the course.
Yeah.
But it's like, and biggie decision games like do this to me too. Life is Strange, and you know, like does that where actually Life is Strange I think was really elegant about it, because Life is Strange is just like life sucks. You have to deal with these situations. Yeah. And Mass Effect a lot of the times like, oh, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, oh, this. I don't care. You know, it's like not because I don't care about characters, but I know what I'm gonna do. Like that's why I'm in this role. So the campaign was funny to me that they were like, you are a Spectre. You are the badass that has to make calls that no one else will make. And I'd be like, cool. And I'd make one. And it's like, and I'm like, you hired me to do this. You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, Saren's the problem. And they're like, oh, wait, spoiler alert, right? I mean,
full spoilers on the table. Obviously, Mass Effect 1 spoilers are on the table.
So I killed the council, and I don't give a...
Yo! Sick! Awesome!
To me, it was... And I lost Ashley. I picked Ashley and Caden because they weren't on my crew, and I was not going to pick Garrus.
Yeah.
And they were the two I just... Like, right away, I had them because you start with them. And I was like, goodbye. And I went... Liara and Rex for the whole thing. Liara was my gal, and I was Femshep. Femshep, sniper, whatever that is, infiltrator or whatever. Yep. And I was like, I grew up in the military, so I called my mom for one mission and was like, hey, I bumped into this guy in the Citadel. Is he cool? And it was neat that like a lot of people respected that. It was really neat. I loved picking a backstory and having some like military-minded people be like, I've seen your past. I know you're good at this, you know.
Cool, Jones.
So it was neat being in that mindset of like, this is my life, you know. It's kind of like diving into the deep end. It's like I don't know anything about Mass Effect, but like here we go.
Jones, dude, I'd never done that, so I didn't even know.
So the 2 hardest calls to me were like, I want the mission to succeed. So it was it was tough to like put it also in an emotional category. It's like Caden was at the nuke, and so I'm like, sorry, Ash, I got to get back to that nuke.
Yeah.
And the next episode, everyone was like, that was rough what you did to Ashley. And so I read her Wikipedia page and like read up all about it. You know, so and it's neat to see like, if you romance her, here's all the stuff that happens. Here's everything she does in 2 and 3. Like Rex made it through, and I guess he can die in 1. And so like, it was funny because
my friend replayed the entire game because he got Rex killed.
I don't know those things, and so I go through. It's like, wow, Rex is upset, and chat's like, because they know how much I
was nervous. I
dearly love Rex.
Yeah.
The reason why I'll never go into those 2 characters is my gal Liara obviously has all this like the science stuff, so she's like cracking open things and making stuff. But she would just pick people up and throw them, and that was the funniest thing when like somebody come running down the hallway and then just like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, haha, thanks, girl. And Rex, I would just be like, I told you this. I'm like, go get him, Rex. Like he would just run in the middle of a room and like all these people would jump around. But so I made that hard call, and then Seth Green calls me, who I was like, I thought he was going to be a bit much in this game.
I like Joker a lot,
but I liked it. He's just kind of on the outside looking in. Like I'm curious if he gets more, if I get to do like missions with him or for him or whatever. But like he was interesting.
Yeah.
But I like in the end, he's like, we got this, but the council's calling, and I'm like, I'm not. We have to destroy this thing. Are you kidding me? Like we can't. Like this thing is just the beginning of the threat that we're gonna have to contend with, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, sorry. And it's funny because they didn't really say, like, after the credits were rolling, I asked Chad, I'm like, they're dead, right? And they're like, oh yeah, you killed. I was like, oh, okay. Or no, it wasn't after credits because I have to appoint what's his name, of course, Anderson to take over.
Yeah.
So like he's now the leader of the council. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to get back into
Anderson.
it. Read a ton of the codex. Thought the. Yeah. I think the greatest achievement of this game is the Mako. No, I'm kidding. The greatest achievement of this game, I think, is how all of the alien races treat each other, communicate with each other, and how that is explained to the player.
And the lore of it all.
That's it.
Legendary. Yes.
That to me equals lore. Like all of those things, that equation.
100%.
Every time I was like, rabbit hole, I came out of it like, that's awesome.
Yes,
that's so cool. My favorite one was when they described how just the whole First Contact thing. Because if you go through watch First Contact, you get into Star Trek lore. It's like, oh, how neat. We went so fast that the Vulcans were like, hi. That was basically what happened to Star Trek. And like now it's like, we went to this place and we're like, what the hell's this?
Yeah.
And then we're like, whoa, look at this cool technology. And like
Turians
came by like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we can just wipe these guys out, which they do, but they didn't realize how many humans there are. We breed like rabbits. And so, we had this overwhelming force that we didn't know what to do with. And so all of a sudden we finally had an enemy. And so we just go to their camp on there and just blast them off of it. And it's cool because it starts this huge conflict between the two of them. But Turians are still like, man, they really kicked our ass that day, didn't they? Like there's nothing they can do about it. Like they completely underestimated us. And so it's neat to see Turians being like, touche. Like, and like, so Garrus's relationship was interesting. And then if you go into lore, we call that the First Contact War. And they call it Incident on Who Gives a Shit. Like they call it it was that thing we did with humans. Yeah. That was a lark, like it's funny. So like all those stories going into like, I felt bad about Sione. What's her name? The gal who you don't see her face until 3 and everybody was happy because they changed the picture because it was just Tali.
Yes. The Quarians.
She's fantastic, but I didn't bring her along. But I still like chat anytime I was like, okay, on to the next mission. The chat was like, Tali. Like, go back, talk to her.
Yeah.
And she was neat. How their whole community runs. Like that was very. Is it Arthur Clarke? That was very like Arthur C. Clarke. Like a lot of it just again reminded me of. We were talking about Jet the Far Shore. It kind of has the same vibe of just like whoa. Like space is very, very big.
I want to ask you how you think the game holds up, because to me, games are so interwoven with technology. Technology ages, games age, but this story, to me, will forever stand the test of time. I just think it's so solid, like you're saying about all the alien races in the lore. The writing is mostly solid from top to bottom. Just the Paragon and Renegade, like clear sides of it all.
I didn't feel too much of that. I didn't feel a bonus or a detraction. I was like 90%. I got like 10% Renegade, just a little sprinkle here and there. And it was mostly when I was just like, wrap it up. I was like, I don't care. Yeah. Or even submissions that I accepted, and Chad was like, whoa. And I'm like, what? And she's like, she just told you to kill somebody. I'm like, I'm not going to go do it. But like, I had a conversation with her. Like, so there's the gray areas, of course, like, and all that stuff. But a lot of people talk about like the combat. They were like, just wait until Mass Effect 2. And I'm like, I'm having a blast. Like I picked like, I had so much money. I sold everything. I did every single side mission. And so I just was sniping the hell out of everything. And everything in that game has just a small little pointy head that's just asking to get, headshotted. And I had a big tough guy that nobody could kill. And my girlfriend who was healing everybody and throwing. And so it was just like, it was fun. I dominated. Yeah. But it was still like, it had a rigidity to it, but like so does Star Trek. Like I grew up, even like some of the most badass, episodes of Next Generation are still like pew pew. Totally. Like they're very TV. And so it's not, like even Aliens is kind of clunky in a horror way. You see how much equipment they have to carry, and so like space exploration is not like, it doesn't necessarily need to be something. Even Gears, it's just like heavy. And so like I didn't mind kind of the stiffness of it.
Interesting, yeah.
Even like the repeated corridors that I would find on planets, I was like, well, the same company built the other station, so like, and
good context.
And when you see space like stuff, like it all looks boring. Like it's really, So I enjoyed like every second of it. Like I really had a good time. You know what? No, major dig.
Okay.
The Citadel sucks.
What?
The Citadel is the most confusing map. Is one of the most confusing things I've ever. Maybe by the end of the game, I finally knew where stuff was. Locations within the Citadel are fine, but just the layout was like, what the hell? There were so many times in this game, chat was like, go to this place, and I checked the map and like, it's not. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's not on the map. Go where? They're like, go to, it's an upper decks. And I'm like, where are the decks? Like
2 issues ago in PC Gamer, they do like random editorials in the back, and it was like celebrating one of the greatest video game spaces ever, the Citadel.
Because you go back 2 more times. My favorite space station on the Citadel, I haven't done that yet. It's like there's a lot I haven't done.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of Liberty City Stories, which came out on PSP and then later PS2.
Of course.
When that taxi dropped me off and I was back in that town, that was like... it's I haven't had that yet.
Yakuza style, Jones.
I was it was blue door after blue door after blue door. Like literally chat with, like imagine watching me play that game and chat, it's like go to the bar or whatever. I can't remember the names of the bar in the Citadel. And I would like spawn to the spot and then just take off. And they're like, Jones, it was right, Jones, it was
right over there.
It was right there. But it's like the red door versus the blue door. I don't know.
Did you have a favorite companion and a favorite story?
Just Rex and Liara. Liara was my girlfriend, and I thought that, getting near the end of the game, I was like, oh, it's a relationship. Oh, here we go. Never mind.
Yeah.
Woohoo. So that was handled really well, and she was a fascinating character. Again, reading up on all of her physiology and how long they get into relationships and how they manage that stuff and the mental links that they have with people. Jennifer Hale, my God.
So good.
It reminds me of Jin Sakai, where it's like you have to... It's kind of like how they talk about climate versus weather.
Yeah.
Like when they talk about the weather debate, they're like, climate's like a straight line and weather's this thing that just zigzags around it. And if you have an actor that's like in an open world game or a massive RPG, they're like, I can't go nuts. I have to find a through line that I stick to. And then maybe in some scenes I'll get more excited or more upset or something, but I still got to come back to the core of the character. And she, you could not bend her from that mindset. Yeah. She just, every scene, I was like, wow, she's really, really good. Yeah. And I've like hung out with Hale before. She's great. She's
so awesome.
And very nice gal, but just was like,
hell yeah.
And again with Jin, like Jin can talk about anything. He can talk about something that's funny, or he can talk about something that's serious, and it doesn't feel like he has to like have a departure for those.
Yeah.
Best story
favorite
though.
Storyline. Could be the main one. Could be a side one.
I liked the micro and macro of it. The most shocking moment for me was I got Saren to shoot himself.
Hell yeah. Yes.
I think I was silent for a full minute. I was like, whoa, because
you got through to him,
dude.
They
did a good job of, because sometimes Star Trek like tries to set up a villain and they either have like a villain that's too bonkers, like Eric Bana in the Star Trek, where you're like, no, the story's okay, but he's just like, it's just too much, like where they just try to invent, or even like the guy from Insurrection, you're just like weirdos, and sometimes it's Khan and it works. Yeah. But other times it'll be like God, or like just something that's so big that they can't communicate with. And this was like both. It was like you had the thing that was manipulating him. Yeah. And from a villain's perspective, I really like that moment where, you were like, whoa, so Saren, you're using these machines to manipulate these other people. And he's like, yes. And it's like, and you're getting an army faster than anybody can get an army because you're just like mind waving them all. And he's like, yes. And it's like, and you're not mind waved? And he's like, no, totally not. And you're like, how the hell would you know? It sounds like a mind wave person would say, and he's like, shut up, and he takes off. So like good. That struggle, again, which is like how that culminated. Whoa. I didn't think. That is a memorable villain. That's a villain that I'm not going to like think of 2 games later and be like, who's the bad guy in the first one? Oh, right, it was Saren. It was like, no, that was a cool way to introduce a much bigger threat, but I still got a clear conclusion. When Femshep was like climbing out of the rubble, it wasn't like, is this the ending? It was like, and sometimes RPGs can be that. They just stop, and you're like,
I don't read a lot of books, Jones, but I read the prequel novel to Mass Effect.
I have not.
That's Saren and Anderson's mission. Oh, Anderson's always talking about, we went on that mission.
Oh, damn, I bet
the whole book is that.
I bet that was really satisfying.
It's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
So really
cool. And he was great. And dude, anytime, like, it was funny because, like, the council was like, there's like, Joker would be like, council's on the phone. You want Talk to the council, and I'm like, sure, I should always talk to the council. It's fine. Like I'm a do-gooder whenever I play RPGs. So I was like, all right, fine. Yeah. And anytime Joker's like, yo, Lance Henriksen's on the phone. You want to talk to Lance Henriksen? I was like, put Lancey boy on the phone right now. And he's like, hey, Femchef. There's this thing on the middle of nowhere. If you could go get, I'm like, right, immediately.
Yeah, let's go.
Like,
let's go.
Didn't that guy want us to save her sister? Lance Henriksen is asking me to do something in space.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. And Marina Sirtis or Soritis or whatever from Star Trek, Troy. There was like, it was fun. Fun people they were not hiding the cast. Like when the people would come out very prominently.
2 final quick questions, Jones. One is, you played this game years and years later.
I played for like 2 hours at first, and then I just bounced.
Yeah. Do you think, was it fun comparing how far games have come? Do you think games have come so far since this game, or do you still think that?
Yeah. I mean, in so many ways, the HUD is super bare bones and archaic. It has that giant, bendy Xbox 360 vibe to it, with big, huge buttons, and like, what? Like, like, when I saw like the crew, I was like, oh, I look at the crew all differently, and they, okay, whoa, what? Took me like about 4 or 5 hours to like really got it. Like, how do I trash things and do whatever, And so chat the whole time is like, they figure it out and it gets better. Yeah. But so in that way, and just in the linearity of it, and just the screen up, the HUD in general, like just kind of the way that they approach action.
I just always compare it to like Witcher 3 now, and just like how good a lot of those decisions are. Even if you are going down one path, it's like, let me pause for a minute and think about this decision before I make it. Yeah. And this is just so clearly like, okay.
But you look at the team that did KOTOR and Dragon Age, and I can just imagine them being like, shotguns! Like they're just having a blast. And then like between games, they're like, okay, now that we've... Because all the lore, man, that must have taken so much time, conceiving all of this stuff. And it was like, like none of it... I think ultimately, I think the races and just how much of that stuff stuck. Like there wasn't a lot of history that I was like, okay, don't care next. Like even some of his planets. So I was like, oh, cool.
You learn about the Batarians? Maybe that's like later on.
No, dude. That's the thing. I could literally talk to you for about 15 minutes about the Batarians, because we had an interesting debate with chat, because almost the entire crew is like, Batarians. And chat was like, why do they hate him so much? Like, why are we, like, it's almost like you're conditioned to hate them in the game. Mm-hmm. And so some people in chat were like legitimately offended, people that are like not American, like we are like super, like American. Yeah. And it was interesting talking to people like from other countries, and there, it's like how you initially treat people, and and a generational thing too, that like they're, if you're dealing with alien races, like you might be holding a grudge for a war that happened thousands of years
not even
ago.
in your lifetime. Yeah.
And so interesting to see, and interesting that like, like you can totally draw comparisons, but like there were no Klingons, there were no, Vulcans. There was nothing that I was like, oh, this trope, it was, Garrus is like their military minded. They were like Secret Service kind of, but there was
the
just
Asari kind of have that Avatar vibe.
I never like rolled my eyes and was like, oh, okay, that's a weird nod. It was all like, felt pretty fresh, and
heck yeah.
Yeah, just textures, and there were some reflections like,
Oosh. Lastly, Mass Effect 2, a very hyped up video game. Yeah. What are your expectations, and what are your hopes when you start that?
We can talk about that in just a second. I'll just drag out this episode. We're going to talk about my favorite thing. We haven't talked about my favorite thing in the whole thing, because you asked me about story and characters and everything like that. The Mako is one of the most fun damn things.
They changed it up though for this version. This is not the original.
Right? Oh, they changed. They changed up a lot of stuff. Yeah. And you could tell there were definitely hallways I went down, and I was like, okay, it for sure didn't look like this in the original, like smoke and fire and all.
So you loved it.
I love that damn thing. Yeah, I bopped around all day.
It is kind of fun,
I was just like, I would literally just, I'd be like, Riders Republic's gonna be fun. I'm gonna have a fun time playing that game. Like because I grew up on
cliffs with it.
Because I grew up on Smuggler's Run.
Yeah.
Which then led to SSX, which then led, there was a lot like that PS2 era. I played a lot of just like, even like the MX and ATV series. I do appreciate just kind of like an open world.
Awesome.
Just cause, like that.
Yeah, that makes sense, Jones.
So it was neat. So I'm the kind of open world dumbass where it's just like question mark on the top of an impossibly to climb hill, and it's like
gotta go there, pick up some scrap,
say hi to the next 10 minutes of the stream. Like I gotta get this dumb thing. And so that was neat. I liked how when they were like the Mako's got to be still for you to get out, and I was like, oh, I bet that's gonna be a big pain in the ass. Like no, it was fine. Like it was fun to run around, and it was fun to like just be out in the middle of nowhere and have like Rex be like, let's get back to the ship.
Cool alien planets for sure.
Interesting, yeah. Some fun.
There is a vocal minority that, and maybe even not that like minor, there's a lot of people that like 1 more than 2. 2 is always celebrated as
sure.
the end all be all, like one of the greatest of all time. But a lot of people like the science fiction world building of 1.
Star Trek 1 versus 2, Blade Runner versus Blade Runner director's
Alien
cut.
versus Aliens. Like, yeah.
It's fun. That's what's interesting about sci-fi.
For sure.
Yeah, and this definitely takes the Star Trek like big brain approach. But just did it, and it was I felt bad about Chat because Chat was like, "Boy, you're skipping some conversations." And it's like, well, to me, listening to everybody is not making character choices. Like to me, when I'm playing an RPG, part of the character choices, I don't care. You know, Chat would be like, "But why don't you ask about it?" And I'm like, "Why would I? I'm a Spectre. I have shit to do. Like, why would I? You know, like, you know, just digging where digging I felt didn't need to happen. You know, it was like
so good.
Whereas like a great example is like at the end, like right before I leave, the guy who's like, I wanted to contact humans to save everyone, and like clearly you're like, let's get out of here. And Ashley's like, maybe you're not Ashley. I think it was Liara was like, we might want to ask it a couple of questions, player. I mean, Shepard. You know, so you could tell when the game was like, this was important, but it's kind of fun. It's fun hanging up the phone, you know, and they bait you with that with the council. They, you know, they're like, do you want to take the call? Like, so I like those moments when you get to do that.
What happened with the Rachni?
Let it go.
Yes.
Yeah. Bye-bye, Rachni.
Same.
Like,
same.
I know where this is going.
Let that Rachni
you know,
go.
It's like I played Resident Evil 4. I let the dog out of the trap. But who knows? You know, it's not. I got to be honest, man. There's not a lot following that game that I'm like, shucks. You know.
Yeah.
I wish I'd gone back. That's a lie. The general who does the big war speech and takes you down. I got bit by the stream jump. He let us go. I started the mission. I ran out of time. I started the next stream and took a left instead of a right, and didn't destroy some drone. And because of that, he died. On the mission. Like, he didn't make it out of
Curry
it.
eye.
Yeah, there were a couple. Yeah, there were a couple of people in chat who were like, Jones. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah. I didn't know.
But I don't know.
That's
But at
part
the
of it.
same time, there's a cost. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I was talking to their people afterwards, and they're like, "Man, we thought he'd make it out, but you know, I guess it's just I don't know."
Yeah.
Stakes. I like it.
I love it.
The game's
It's
got
so high
teeth. The
stakes.
story's got teeth.
It does.
Um,
Hopes for 2.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to combat. Obviously, stuff like I remember all the upgrades from 3, and they were really funny. I remember like the pre-order bonuses and stuff. But like I remember, I was like, "Oh, cool energy," and like immediately chat was like, "Yeah, you reload in 2." I was like, "Oh, okay." So like I'm prepped more for action stuff.
Do you know the premise at all?
No, I know you have to like get people together. I know you're building an army in 3.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I know the cast. I know the 3 characters I'm looking forward to. I know Tattoo Chick because game trailers was humming at this point. This was like 2008, 2007, 2008, right? So this was like Jeff Keighley at the VGAs with Samuel L. Jackson. Like this was like the heyday of game trailers.
Yeah.
And so Mass Effect 2 had 50 trailers.
Yeah.
And so they had the whole cast. So like Snake guy he's like assassins are artists and I blink blink am the master. Like I remember that trailer. I can quote it. Never play the game, but like I saw that trailer a million times. Martin Sheen, I know. Like I was joking with Brent Phillips the other day who built EasyAllies.com about like Tube Guy. I know there's like one mission. I remember in the trailer like the steam comes out like Tube Guy.
Oh my God,
and I know that
good. This is so good.
No, I love this stuff. Like that's why
I love this.
That's why I wanted this remaster so bad because I knew the syndrome could happen. I knew and we'll do this for every for every one of these. I can't wait.
So hyped for 2.
Chat's like rush into 2. I'm like, gotta save it.
Yes.
Gotta save
Good
it.
move.
Because man, when we boot that back.
Yes.
But
final thoughts on...
And I know the character. I mean, Isla just talked about it in Hall of Greats, like the character investment. So it's not just like Rex being like, my parents, and then you go and he's like, thanks. It's like, no, this is an arm of the story that will have huge repercussions when you get back, or at least you're like, that's so neat that I learned about that character. Ashley, interesting to see where her story goes. Oh, she's dead. Sorry, no, Ashley's dead.
Harsh. Mine died too when I replayed them all. Mine died too. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. Is like someone's got to go, right? Or just it's like Shadow in Final Fantasy VI. There's this character that can come or go, and it's like, well, it's not the bad ending. You have to take his loss in games. It's like,
you feel it
when you have to let people go. That's when you're like, that was the price of admission to have that emotion, that real emotional connection with somebody. And so, I
crave that. I chase that.
The characters were rad in this. The writing's rad. I dug it, but I wouldn't say it exceeded my expectations. I kind of saddled up for just a big, deep, nice, fun game.
So do you think it's a great game?
Sure. I'm going to reserve judgment until I play 2 and 3.
Nice.
Because I'm thinking it's going to be like 2, 3, 1 probably at the end of the day. Just because I'm going to be more invested in 3. By the time I get to 3, I'm going to be like, like all these people I'm going to know so well. Whereas like so much of 1. Again, the Citadel. I'm like, where am I going?
Yeah.
Chat's like, tell it left, right. Like, what right? There's 8 rights.
Awesome. Brandon Jones.
Yeah. It's a heck of a developer, man. I hope they get. I really want them to get back on their feet because they've made a lot of. I've spent a lot of time reading BioWare written dialogue.
Yeah.
In my lifetime.
Yeah, the Legendary Edition, it makes to me because I missed it the first time around. Andromeda. I'm excited to give Andromeda a fair chance.
If I play 3 of these, it's like why
not?
Why wouldn't I play 4?
Exactly.
What if it's like get it on Switch, like a streaming version, Mass Effect 4 streaming version on Switch.
That was Mass Effect 1. Brandon Jones finished it, and
a pleasure.
We will do this again for 2 and 3. It was supposed to be Halloween content this episode, but I wanted to talk to Jones about this.
Oh, and I didn't know I was. He literally grabbed me.
Like,
I found out I was going to be on this.
Yes.
60 seconds before we hit the button. So
next week we'll do some hopefully spooky recommendations or something along Halloween.
And the music. Again.
So good.
Good RPG.
All right, that's it. See you next time. Love and respect.